Okay. This last video is going to cover 3.4 national government and states. It's basically going to break down federalism a little more. Generally, we're talking about a split in power between the big government, national government, and state governments. The states, or the articles, had a lot of the power. Uh, then it's closer to a little bit more for the national government. I don't know if you want to call it 51% or 60-40 or 70-30, but definitely because of the supremacy clause, the national government um, has more power than the states. All right. So the big questions on this topic are: how would a new state be admitted into the union? What is cooperative federalism and grant and aid? And what is the full faith and credit clause and the privileges and immunities clause? Okay. Nation's obligations of the state. Most of these are spelled out in Article 4. The obligations guarantee a Republican form of government. That means you have representatives to vote for on your behalf in Congress. Um, the Fed's supposed to protect you from invasion and internal disorder, so you can't have riots. The Fed's supposed to step in with the National Guard. This is definitely trying to resolve the Shays rebellion problem. And then respect for national integrity. It feels like this visual is so big and might be cutting something off. Could be just the picture. Oh yeah, it's just the picture. Okay, so they're supposed to take care of those things. All right, let's add those in on our notes. I think it would be better not to have that blank between these sections, so I might go back and change this in your original. Let's go like this, just one shot. All right, yeah, let me go change the original. This would be better if this space wasn't here, so you won't see that on yours. Okay, what's next? Admission of new states. So how it works: a really reaches out to Congress for statehood, and then, well, really, it's some people in a territory that reach out for statehood. This is what happened with Hawaii. And under the Enabling Act, they direct people of a territory to make a constitution and put it to a vote because at least they don't want the appearance of it to be seen as they had no choice on it. And then what happens is you have what's known as an act of admission, and that creates a new state with the president's signature. Most are happy to add territory, so this is usually a formality. Um, and here are some states that got added. Some of these processes, I guess. Not sure what the colors mean. But that's basically it. Enabling Act, active admission is how a territory, the process before it's become a state. Okay, cooperative federalism. These are federal programs with money involved. Grants and aid. This is federal tax money, goes to the state for specific reasons. And then you have revenue sharing, federal tax money given to the state, county, cities, no strings attached. It basically just goes into the general fund. Um, but now that in. Okay, what's next? Types of federal grants. Categorical grants, these are specific reasons. Might be for school lunches, might be for building airports, maybe highways. It's really specific. I don't know why there's a big old gap there, but let's get rid of that. Wonky. Go ahead and add these in as we go. Then you have what's known as block grants. States tend to prefer these because then they get more freedom with the money. They have a wider range of spending options. Uh, Healthcare, welfare are an example, and it's a little less regulated than the categorical grants. Project grants happen when it's specific to one plan. I would think it's possible that the high speed rail they're building would be considered a part of a project grant. I would think. Uh, though maybe not. It could be more local than that. I'm not sure exactly how categorical and project grants work. So when we do that reading, let's look at that closely. That'll come up again. There's other aid between state and the federal, where the national government helps states. For example, the FBI will assist with criminal issues. They have a little bit more resources than local or state, while the military provides support as needed to the National Guard. National Guard is who you call when you have domestic issues, whether it's Kent State or the insurrection on January 6th. That's who he gets called, and that's who supports him, the military. States can help the federal government too. States run national elections, and the local police hold federal criminals as needed. It's good that there's cooperation on that. Okay, so if you look at the visuals on this one, it's just reinforcing how the national government helps the states. The Air National Guard will protect the skies, really. Um, Voting, states will run for the Fed. And then the FBI, this J. Edgar Hoover was the famous director of the FBI for years. An interesting story, too. All right. It also controls relations between the states. The Constitution eases this friction between the state by adding Article 4, Section 4. All right, let's go ahead and chop that in. So there was some friction, and especially in terms of power. Who's supposed to have power, when, and where. But with the specificity here, that gets eliminated to a large degree. And what you have are interstate compacts, which are agreement between the states and each other with foreign nations. But it has to be with consent of the Congress. So again, the federal government is being put above the state and local government. Congress has to agree, whatever they're doing, at least as far as between states or foreign nations. Examples: compacts on parolees, uh, agreements on the environment or motor vehicles. California, um, their Environmental Protection Association rules. CalEPA is one of the most strict in the country. That's one reason why our fuel prices are higher than most places. Um, but the Fed runs that, and it's clear that they have that power um, under Article 4, Section 4. Okay. These are a few examples of compacts. Low level radioactive waste compacts. Basically, the Fed is the one putting nuclear energy into our system. So they got to figure out what to do with it. I think I'm going to try to move this a little just so I can make this one a smidge bigger. And then we can take a closer look at it. Let's see if a closer look gives us any better idea of what they're talking about. Okay. So you have regional compacts. And apparently it includes low level radioactive waste. You have these Superfund sites too. Notice how you have some that aren't affiliated with any compact. All right, on waste, radioactive waste. All right, then you got the full faith and credit clause. This is in Article 4, Section 1. Each state must respect the public acts, records, and judicial proceedings of other states. There was an issue about some states were banning interracial marriages. Pretty embarrassing. But the Supreme Court eventually determines that's unconstitutional. Generally, a marriage in any state is seen as valid in all states. But because of um, uh, sexual identity issues and race, sometimes this has been an issue in the world, sadly enough. Let's go ahead and write in full faith and credit. Anything else we need to? It's like respect. So you have to respect what's done in another state in terms of laws, legal documents, judicial outcomes. So, like if you owe money to a judge court decision, you still got to pay, even if you choose to move. All right, let's go to the next one. Extradition. If you're if you leave a state um, and you're a fugitive, they're supposed to return you. Article 4, Section 2, Clause 2 is the process by which a fugitive from one state can and should be returned to that state. Fugitive is someone that is running from justice. But there's definitely a process to return. We have extradition treaties with foreign countries too, by the way. Um, most of them, but there's a few that don't, and that's where criminals. Guess what? That's where they want to go, because there's no formal agreement that the government will have to give them up. So they may, but it's not formal if they're found out there. Courts upheld that state must comply in 1987, even if they don't want to. I don't know how it came up. Sometimes it comes up with um, federal crime of some sort. Could kidnapping, probably one of them. Yeah. All right. So, privileges and immunity clauses in Article 4, Section 2. Notice we keep saying Article 4 because that's where you find most of the federalism issues. So here we have each state must recognize the right of any American to travel in or become a resident of another state. We respect people's right to move if they want, as long as they're, you know, not fleeing from justice. They're not supposed to be denied access to a place in America. Freedom. They can use the courts, marry, or make other contracts. That's not supposed to be impeded upon either. No, as I just mentioned in the last slide, it has happened. States can require a reasonable time before a new resident can vote. What's reasonable? I don't know. I don't know if that's 6 months, a year, 18 months. But at some point, they have to permit a new resident to be able to vote, hold office, acquire other licenses or permits as need be. Might be hunting, fishing license, but they're not supposed to ban someone. How would a new state be admitted into the union? That was in this one, Enabling Act, Act of Admission, and what starts with a request, then the Enabling Act, then the Act of Admission. What is cooperative federalism and grants and aid? Cooperative federalism uh, it's basically where the federal tax money is going to states. Grants and aid specifically are money sent to the states for specific reasons. It's the full faith and credit clause and the privileges and immunities clause. Full faith and credit, state must respect public acts, documents, public acts, records, and judicial proceedings from other courts. Privileges and immunities clause, each state must accept people's right to travel, reside, marry, um, or acquire new citizenship rights as long as it's in a reasonable time frame. That's it. Go ahead and make sure you type that up. Do a good job. Uh, if there's no video, I think you could go ahead and turn this in upon completion. I think that's the end of it. Hopefully this video is helpful.